Hey everybody, welcome to Rants by Michaela. So I'm going to get back to my series about, some of the advantages and disadvantages of kicking your kids out as soon as they turn 18. I actually have a video that's in my drafts right now that I'm thinking about editing or just completely redoing, because you guys know I like to do this all in one take. And sometimes I can kick myself because I don't get all of the points out there that I want to get out. But hey, you can't do anything perfect. You can't always be perfect. But I want to talk about some of the mixture of emotions that I've seen in response to the news of Queen Elizabeth II's passing. It is ratchet. It is raunchy. It is ridiculous. I have probably only seen one positive video on TikTok of a community of people actually mourning her death. Other than that, I have seen a ton of people just basically, they're singing ding dong, the witch is dead, the wicked witch, the wicked old witch, ding dong, the wicked witch is dead. Like, you couldn't get worse than that. There was actually an African country that got together during this concert or something, and they were chanting, Lizzie's in a box, Lizzie's in a box, Lizzie's in a box. And I'm like, damn, what did she do? Because I don't really know that much about the monarchy. I don't really do a whole lot of research on it. I started to watch The Crown season 1, which talks about how Queen Elizabeth II came into power. But it's one of those really serious shows that you could really only put up with once a week. It's not like one of those shows like Sons of Anarchy or Mayans that's action-packed with all of these really hot guys that you can just pretty much binge watch and finish, 4 seasons in 3 days. No, it's not like that. It's really deep. And you're going to have to take time out of your day to sit back, pay attention, and get into it. Even if you're just sitting there folding laundry, you're going to be sitting there using muscle memory to fold your laundry and put it in the piles that it goes, whether it's mine, my oldest son's, my youngest son's, whether it's underwear, shirts, whatever. Muscle memory is going to have to take the helm. Meanwhile, my mind is focused on what's going on in this episode of season 1. So as far as I knew about Queen Elizabeth, was that she took on a job that she didn't want because she wasn't originally supposed to inherit the throne. The throne, after her grandfather's passing, went to her uncle, but he decided to marry a woman who had already been divorced 3 times. And according to the rules of the monarchy, that was not allowed. He was supposed to have married a virgin. And he may have even been able to get away with marrying a widow, but she had 3 living ex-husbands, and that didn't work according to the royal family and what the expectations of the royal family were. So he had to step down as king before even his coronation and pass the crown over to his brother. And now his brother and his brother's children, in this case Queen Elizabeth and her sister Margaret, are now burdened with this responsibility of the crown, something that they didn't want. And I remember in the series, there's an episode where Queen Elizabeth II confronts her uncle and says, did you ever think to apologize to me? Did you ever think to apologize to me and my sister or anyone else in our family about how your actions could negatively affect us? Didn't you think that all I ever wanted in this world was to be a simple countrywoman, a wife and a mother? And one of the things that was kind of sad about her situation was she was in love with her husband, and she wanted her husband to be able to inherit, or she wanted her husband to be able to give his last name over to her children, but it wasn't allowed. They had to maintain her last name, but the grandchildren, who are now Prince William and Prince Harry, were able to have his last name, but hyphenated. So as far as I know, their last name is Windsor Mountbatten. Mountbatten being the last name of their grandfather, because Prince Charles wasn't allowed to be a Mountbatten. He was only allowed to take on his mother's last name, which was a Windsor. So I felt really bad for her. It was really giving me Michelle Obama vibes, because Michelle Obama didn't want to be first lady, but she supported her husband and she took on that role very gracefully and very headstrong, if I might add, with a lot of the stuff that she was doing. And she performed her role very respectably, in my opinion, over the course of 8 years, and then told that man, if you decide to go back into politics again, I will divorce you because I'm not doing that stuff no more. You know? But Michelle Obama took on a role that she didn't want, and she handled it. And the Queen of England took on a role that she didn't want, and she handled it. Now, from what I understand in the first series of The Crown, Queen Elizabeth and her sister Margaret were not given a formal education. The type of education that simple people like myself, my family members, and my friends have taken advantage of in public school. She and her sister were only ever given the education of the UK Constitution. Taught that as long as they understood the UK Constitution, they would be able to perform their duties as queen and princess in the upcoming future, from when they were kids to when they would become adults. As a result, when she inherited the crown, and I believe she had to meet a U.S. president, if I'm not mistaken, it was like Dwight D. Eisenhower, she had to hire a tutor to teach her some things about the realities of the world and what was going on in the world that she was not aware of because she wasn't given that type of education. She was denied it. As a result, we're talking about a sheltered palace girl who is extremely disconnected from reality. Only in these last couple of days have I found out that the Queen was reigning when the UK went and colonized Jamaica and did some of the things that have occurred in Jamaica. That the UK was responsible for the boarding schools in Canada that we have now found out to have killed tens of thousands of Native American children and forced the remaining surviving children who were forced to go to those boarding schools to assimilate to Western culture in Canada and the US. That the Queen was responsible for going to South Africa and beginning, or she was reigning when the UK decided to go to South Africa and then implement apartheid. Now, I don't know how much of this she knew she was doing. I don't know if she was educated enough or connected to reality enough to understand what the consequences of her actions would be. Because, in my opinion, she was someone who didn't know what she was doing, but was constantly in the company of older advisors who did understand what they were doing, who were pressing upon her the need for her to do certain things, not because it would better her agenda or, the country itself, the UK, but because it was something that was necessary to lead their own agendas, to benefit their own agenda, so to speak. To give you an example, in the series The Crown, there's an episode where the Prime Minister who followed Winston Churchill after Winston Churchill passed away decided that he wanted the reputation of being a war hero across the UK. So he decided to start a war in Egypt. And one of Queen Elizabeth's advisors had told her, you need to watch out for this prime minister because we think he's getting ready to start a war just so that he could be declared a war hero. Well, the war ended up being a complete disaster. The British troops had to withdraw from the country altogether. The prime minister, instead of being declared a war hero, ended up being declared an embarrassment to the UK. And all of the people in Parliament who had supported him turned their backs on him when he led such an embarrassing war campaign, and was blamed for it. He stepped down as prime minister, ended up going to Jamaica for health reasons, and then someone else had to follow in his footsteps. And she was told that technically it was her obligation to support him because you don't want the public thinking that the Prime Minister of England and the Secretary of State, who is the Queen of England, are at odds. You have to make it look like you guys are constantly in sync, so the crown always has to have the Prime Minister always has to have the support of the crown. So I think she was a little girl who was very disconnected from reality, who made a lot of decisions that were kind of, how should I say, it was impressed upon her their importance, but not because of any way, shape, or form that it would benefit the UK. There were a bunch of old guys around her who had their own agenda, who used her to push their own agenda, and I don't think she knew about it, As you saw in one of the later videos, when she's already 95, 96 years old, this woman didn't even know how to cut a cake, okay? even though she was the reigning queen, because that's the position that she had to hold by blood, I don't think, and again, I could be wrong, I don't think she was connected to reality enough to know exactly what the repercussions of her decisions would have been after she had been so forcibly convinced to make some of those decisions as to what had occurred around the world. In India, in Jamaica, all across the Caribbean, the Americas, Africa. I don't think she knew, because as far as I knew, the only thing that I had really known about the Queen of England is that, Sierra Leone went independent in 1993, 1994. And the way that I saw it in the documentary that I was watching, the Queen gave Sierra Leone back to its people versus continuing to colonize the nation. But I could be wrong. I have to do some more research. But that's what I had understood, was that she was constantly giving nations back to the people, not trying to participate in colonizing them. And when she was convinced to give the command to colonize these nations, I don't think she really knew what she was doing. But anyway, that's my rant. I feel really bad for her because, a lot of people are not really respecting her life. They're not saying, hey, may God rest her soul. They're kind of treating her the way that I would treat the news of Trump's death, to be quite honest with you. So I can't blame people who are more educated than I am, who have done more research than I am, for having this reaction. It's just really shocking to me that this is the reaction. But anyway, hey, may God rest her soul. Long live the Queen of England. You guys have a good one.